And you heard that the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, they are not really excited about moves by government to get schools reopened after May 31. Let's see how it goes after their meeting with the Ghana Education Service. Right now, let me take you to Parliament. Parliament is resuming sitting this morning following a recall to look at some pressing matters. My colleague Joseph Opulgato joins me live on the line. Joseph, what is happening in the House this morning? Joseph, if you can hear me, what should we expect this morning in Parliament?
If you can hear me, sitting has actually begun. We've had the Speaker, Professor Michael Quay, as well as the minority and majority leaders, Chairman Sabuntu and Haruna Idrisu, deliver what is described as the welcome addresses. And following their break and the beginning of the second meeting of the fourth session of Parliament, a number of issues have come up. Professor Michael Quay has directed that the medical director in Parliament takes the necessary steps to ensure all members of Parliament as well as staff of the House are tested for COVID-19. He disclosed that directive a while ago and said that the medical director is beginning the processes with the necessary institutions to ensure that this testing is concerned so that MPs and their staff know their status when it comes to COVID-19 as a way to prevent a possible spread. He again said that the necessary measures will be put in place to protect MPs. You know, some MPs have called for the decision to recall the House virtually reversed, including the minority spokesperson on health, because he doesn't understand why 275 people should be sitting over non-urgent business at a time that the nation is dealing with COVID-19. But the Speaker says necessary measures will be put in place in order to ensure that MPs are safe, except that the specifics of that are things that he did not disclose. But he cautioned MPs that even as they go about their duties in the chamber, they should ensure adequate social distancing so they don't send the wrong signal and the wrong example to ordinary members of the public. So he delivered all of that in his welcome address. The minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, contributed to the conversation. He demanded that there should be more strict accountability mechanisms when it comes to how government is spending the various sums Parliament has approved for the fight against COVID-19, including about $100 million that's coming from the World Bank, and also issues having to do with the $1 billion that's coming from the IMF and other institutions. He says the fact that there is COVID-19 doesn't mean accountability mechanisms should be thrown to the dogs, and that those steps should actually be rolled out as soon as possible so there is efficient use of the amount. Again, Haruna Idrisu has been calling for the summoning of the Electoral Commission boss to the House to come brief MPs on the roadmap for the upcoming election, the 2020 elections. He says it's out of place that there isn't a clear plan on the part of the EC as far as processes for that poll is concerned. And in his words, this is a democracy, and the democracy that the nation has will continue running even whether there is COVID-19 or there isn't. So he wants the EC boss summoned as well. There have been comments on that as well from Osei Chairman Sabuntu, who is the majority leader, indicating that government, and for that matter Parliament, will be providing the executive the necessary support as far as the processes to deal with the COVID-19 are concerned. And he made the point that when it comes to helping and supporting the EC in planning the processes going into the 2020 elections, that as well is something that the Parliament of Ghana will be doing. And so once those addresses were done, the main sitting for the day began earnestly, and Chairman Sabuntu was back on the floor laying out what is described as the business statement and spelling the agenda on what the House will be doing in the first week as they resume from their break. And today they are commencing the second meeting of the fourth session of the 7th Parliament. And so, you know, they start right from late January up until about a month ago, which was actually the first meeting, and they took a break and they are back for the second meeting. This meeting will run for the next 3 months, after which they will take their final break for the year and return sometime in August to complete their final meeting for the year. So the processes have begun in Parliament, honestly.
A lot happening there, Joseph, but because some were not happy with the recall, I don't know if it's reflected in the numbers on the floor.
as we speak, I tried doing a count of the number of MPs on the floor. There are less than 100 of them out of the 275 who are expected in the House. But this is virtually normal. On a very regular day, you don't see the House getting filled in terms of the numbers. So we're seeing the numbers of MPs showing up like it is on usual days, less than 100 of them, even as the business of the House commences. The expectation is that as the day progresses and in the week ahead, more of them will be showing up in order to deliberate on businesses. For this particular meeting, which is running for the next 10 to 12 weeks, a number of items are on the agenda. The controversial public universities bill, which we know that the vice chancellors and other educationists have kicked against and is being worked on at the level of the education committee, will be coming to the floor in order for the necessary debate and approval. As well, the House has been considering the pre-tertiary education bill, which is seeking to amalgamate all the various bodies that are supervising various educational activities at the lower level, below the tertiary level.
Joseph, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on what is happening in Parliament. A lot there, and we'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins.